Good evening, campers, dreamers, and babysitters. And yes, today we got the surprise trailer drop. At least I didn't know it was coming out for the Children of the Corn remake. Yes, we talked about this on the Sunday Scaries, what, like 2, 3 weeks ago? And yeah, it's surprisingly, the clip we put out got like a little bit of traction on it, a couple hundred views. That was kind of odd. But I think maybe it's because nobody's covering it. I don't know. This is just kind of one of those ones that, like, I think at one point I knew it was coming out, and then we didn't hear anything forever, and now it's coming, and it's coming to Shudder. So, hey, they released a trailer. We're going to talk about it. So, Luke, how do you feel about the Children of the Corn remake? I know you're thrilled.
I've been anticipating this one all year. You know this. It's something I can't stop talking about. Now, this is something where I talked about it on the Sunday Scaries. I've seen the original one. I don't know if I've seen it in its entirety, but I don't know if I've seen it as a straight sit down watching it. Because it was something that was on TV. My dad was a big Stephen King fan, so growing up, Stephen King properties were always on the television. I know I've seen the original. And Children of the Corn was never anything that ever resonated with me. Looking at the plethora of properties that Stephen King has, I don't really know if Children of the Corn is something that anyone's clamoring for. Apparently there are some people out there that are really intrigued by the story. I'm just not one of them.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a handful of sequels, and they're all horrible. I think there is even a remake out there. So it's like, there's been a lot of stop and starts here of trying to get this kind of course corrected. And I guess here we are again in 2023. They are not giving up on Children of the Corn.
No, and I mean, it's Stephen King, so it's one of those things where it's like seems like every once in a while he kind of goes through a resurgence here and there where it's like, okay, we're going to do Stephen King stuff. Obviously, it kicked things off back in 2017, was it? Yeah, 17. And we've just kind of been on a roller coaster ever since. So it's kind of like we're just now, I think, getting to the end of this run, and this is just kind of one of those movies that I'm sure was people had a lot of hope for when it first started, and then now we're here, and it's just kind of like, is everybody kind of burned out on King, at least in this current iteration? Who knows? But yeah, we're gonna take a look at this trailer and see how we're feeling about it. We both already watched it once, but we're gonna watch it with you guys, talk about it for a little bit, and yeah, give you our thoughts. Okay. Alrighty, yeah, and I got the red band trailer going. I'm not going to skimp out on you guys there.
Prepare to witness the horrific rise.
And I was
of the next
really caught off
generation
guard by the narration here, as one of those things where it's like I just wasn't expecting it, and at first it felt really cheap, but then I kind of see the stylistic choice they're going for with it.
Yeah, it really feels like I'm watching a 90s VHS before an actual movie that I want to see. So I thought it was interesting. I think I don't know who's fully attached to this film, but it at least sounds like they have an idea of what they want to go with.
Yeah, and I was looking for some stuff on the director there. I know he's behind like Equilibrium and a couple other films, but he hasn't done anything in a long time.
Yeah.
Apparently the word around the Twitter campfire is that he got jerked around by the studios back in the day. So this is kind of like his return to it. So hey, he could have a lot of drive, a lot of motivation. Personally, I don't think this looks that bad from a cinematography standpoint. Like, I like the shots. It's really just going to come down to these characters and the story, I think.
Come! This is our world now!
And if this could be just gory as hell, I mean, it's a streaming film, so it's one of those things where it's like you don't have to rush out to the theater, pay $15 to see it. I mean, like, that's gives it some merit, I would say, of just like, okay, it's not going to be a hard commit.
Children of the Corn.
Now, this catches me off guard because I'm not super familiar with the source material. Is there a monster in the corn? Do you know?
That I can't remember. I don't know if they ever touch on it, actually. I thought, it's more so the kids versus, worshiping he who walks behind the rose, maybe is what it is, or something like that. I don't know if we ever actually, at least in that original film, I don't remember them getting anything. But again, I watched it as a kid. It's not something I've wanted to revisit. But like overall, yeah, the trailer here does look quality. Like looks like there's some actual technique behind a lot of these things, but again, it's what, 2 minutes or whatever. So I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know necessarily what to think of it. Like sitting down, and I think we equated this maybe to Firestarter as to what we had gotten
Yeah.
previously. And it's like, who knows?
Yeah, and that's, I really don't want this to be Firestarter. It is going to be one of those ones where
No
it's
one
like,
does.
yeah, that wasn't great. Just in the sense of it just being so generic at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
I'd really like this to be creative and kind of have fun with the concept. But, at the end of the day, it's kind of just, we got to roll the dice here and see what happens. Like I said, this is coming straight to Shudder. So it is one of those things where it's like, again, if you have the service, you don't have to pay anything extra. That's
Why not
bonus
give it a
points in
watch?
my book. Yeah, so it's like we're just gonna throw it on and see how it is. And yeah, I don't see that as the mark of death that I feel like a lot of people are going to put on this. The fact that it was just kind of in development for a long time and then just thrown on Shudder, because it's like Shudder and Screambox and them have really been stepping up their game. And like again, we've talked about it 100 times, is that streaming, it can't be looked at as a seal of death anymore. It's, you just never know. So it's like we've had quality stuff on streaming over the last few years. So it's like, I don't know. I really would love for this to kick some ass and come out and shock the hell out of us, but it's really a toss up for me. Again, I can say the positives there. If they lean into the violence, they lean into the fright factor of these kids, and they just keep the heart of the Stephen King story into it, then I have faith in his storytelling. It's one of the, stories that really resonated with people over the years, because we've had so many Children of the Corn things that it's just like, it's got to have something to it. It's got to be a little bit of that King magic in there.
And this being on Shudder for me isn't a strike in the slightest. Where all the studios attached, and then seeing Shudder, it makes me think. Well, that's actually a positive to say. There might be quality to this film. This hits the mark for us to say, okay, this is good enough to be on our streaming service. So I'm actually more intrigued to see this now that I know like Shudder is going to be streaming it. And like Dylan said, we already subscribed to Shudder. So we're going to check it out regardless and see the quality of this. And, I'm a little more sour on this film, certainly. But, I'm going to go in here ready to like this movie. I hope I do, because it's like, Stephen King does have that tone about him. He has that feel. So I think anything can almost, kind of, you can lose yourself in the Stephen King feeling of these films. So, I'm intrigued to see it. I'm not necessarily excited about it, but I'm gonna hope for the best, certainly.
Absolutely. And I mean, hey, that's all we can ask for. It's been a bang up couple of years for horror, so not everything's going to strike. But hey, if this comes out and ends up surprising us, the trailer has some good promise. Yeah, I'm all here for it, man. Like, I would definitely like to say, hey, Children of the Corn blew us away. And yeah, I'd really like to see Stephen King and everybody behind the camera here get a win. I think that'd be fun. But only time will tell. We don't have to wait that long. It's coming out on March 3rd. So stay tuned for our review on this. And yeah, man, I guess we'll see you then for Children of the Corn. Till then, if you guys are new to the channel, here, hit that subscribe button. We got a lot of great content up on the channel, as far as a couple of great interviews with the director Robbie Banfitch for The Outwaters. We just spoke to him about that. And the director and producer of Race Frake Waterfield and Scott Jeffries on Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Yeah, and we also have that review coming later this week, and a lot of other great stuff hitting on the channel. So go ahead, poke around. It's all down there for you. But yeah, I guess that about wraps us up here. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.